Hey guys! In this video, we will be looking at the Puppeteer Python library for web scraping. A few things before we get started. Puppeteer is an unofficial Python wrapper for Puppeteer, and Puppeteer is a hugely popular JavaScript Chrome or Chromium browser automation library. Python Puppeteer is one of the best headless browser options out there, and you can use it for browser automation and web scraping. In this video, we go through how to set up and use Python Puppeteer, how to scrape web pages, how to wait for the page to load, how to click on buttons using Puppeteer, how to scroll the page, take screenshots, and how to use proxies with Puppeteer. Let's get started. Installing and setting up Puppeteer is very straightforward. First, you need to install the Puppeteer Python library. Puppeteer works with Python version 3.6 and higher. Looks like I've got version 3.10.9 installed. So I'm just going to make a new virtual environment real quick. And then I'm going to use pip to install from PyPI. Of course, you can also install the latest version directly from GitHub. Now, before getting started with Puppeteer, it's important to note that when you run Puppeteer for the first time, it will download the latest version of Chromium if it's not found on your system. Chromium is about 150 megabytes, so this may cause some lag when you run your script. If you prefer to download the latest version of Chromium before running your script, you can do this using the command puppeteer-install. Now that we've set up Puppeteer, let's create our first script to open a page in a browser and take a screenshot. In this demo script, you can see that we have a simple function that opens quotes.toscrape.com. Let's take a look at what this web page looks like. Quotes to Scrape is a really simple site with just a few elements. There's some headers, a few columns, and some well-structured blocks of text. Taking a look back at the demo script, we can see that what we will be doing first is simply opening the web page. Then we'll take a screenshot and finally save it as a PNG before closing the browser. Also notice that Puppeteer has async support by default. So this means that our scripts handle browser automation steps asynchronously, which can significantly increase performance. Okay, let's run our script. And the script has created the PNG file, which if we take a look, looks like we've grabbed a screenshot of the main content of the web page. Great. Next, we will look at how to scrape pages with Puppeteer. A common use case for Puppeteer and other browser automation libraries is scraping websites. You can easily scrape websites by using Puppeteer's implementation of JavaScript's document API. Feel free to take a look at the documentation on the web, as this will come in handy when we're navigating the HTML on the website. This time we run the code, we are going to try to grab the heading, and we are going to look at the quotes to scrape website again. So if we go into developer mode and inspect the main heading, we can confirm that the heading is wrapped in h1 tags. The other part of the script is getting the text content property from the node. Here's where the JavaScript Documents API documentation comes in handy. If you have any questions about how to pull certain elements from the HTML document, you can always come here and look it up. In this case, we are going to use the text content to pull just the plain text from the h1 tags. Let's run this code real quick. And we get output, but we've just printed out a JavaScript object, which isn't super helpful. Let's update the script and grab just the JSON value here on line 12. That should pull the text out of the object we had stored in the title variable. We can save the file and run it again. And cool, now we can see the quotes to scrape title has printed out into the console. Alternatively, we can just retrieve the HTML content from the response and use a library like Beautiful Soup to parse the data we need. Whoops, I just need to fix the name real quick. We want to make sure we pull the title from the soup. And running the script again, we can see that we get the same result. The quotes to script title using Beautiful Soup. Next, we look at how to wait for a page to load. This is a common requirement when using headless browsers. We want to make sure all the content has loaded prior to moving on to the next step. With Pypeteer, we do this in two ways. The first way is to wait a specific amount of time. We can simply call the wait for method and define a time in milliseconds. The other approach is to wait for a page element to appear on the page before moving on. We can do this by using the wait for selector method and define which element we are waiting on. Next, we see how to click on buttons programmatically using Puppeteer. It's pretty simple. In our demo script, we are just going to click on the title. As you can see, the h1 tag around the title has an href attribute. In the code, we just need to find it with a query selector and then tell Puppeteer to click on it. Next, we may need to scroll a page with Puppeteer. A lot of modern websites now use infinite scrolls to load more results onto the page, kind of like this page is doing. When you are web scraping, you will need to scroll the page to scrape all the data that you need. We can scroll all the way to the bottom of the page using Evaluate. You can see more details on how to work with Evaluate in the Puppeteer documentation. The Evaluate function in Puppeteer takes a string of JavaScript. JavaScript strings can be a function or an expression. Earlier, we saw that Puppeteer can help us take screenshots. Let's take a look at this again. If we rerun our script and open the screenshot, we can see that we have only captured the main column of the website. But if we bring up the web page, you can see that we haven't captured the sidebar areas on the left and right. You can change the page size prior to taking the screenshot using page.setViewport. And when we check out our screenshot now, we can see that we've captured the whole area of the page, including the sidebar areas. Moving on to the last section of the tutorial, how to use proxies with Puppeteer. If you are scraping, then you will likely want to use a proxy. With Puppeteer, you can set a proxy when you launch the browser. If you need to authenticate the proxy, then you can do so by calling the authenticate function and passing in your credentials. Python Puppeteer has a huge amount of functionality and is highly customizable, so much so that it is hard to cover everything properly in a single tutorial. So if you would like to learn more about Python Puppeteer, then definitely check out the official documentation.